Welcome to the Messy Magic Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about life in all its messy glory and we celebrate the stuff that might seem unpretty, uncomfortable, and maybe even unwanted at first glance. I'm your host, Nadee Guy, and I'm on a mission to help you establish unshakable self-love, self-trust, and self-understanding so you can have the confidence and freedom to live a beautiful life filled with magic and pleasure. Because we only get one chance to live our life. So let's make the bloody most of it. Welcome to season 2 of the Messy Magic podcast. Thank you so much for joining me here today. And if this is not your first time listening, well, it feels like a long time to me, but it's actually only been just over a month, I think, since I did my last podcast episode. But I've been really wanting to come back and record more. And to be honest, I've had all kinds of ideas about what season 2 was going to look like. I do have some ideas for the structure of the season. I'm thinking about doing a weekly episode, and I'm trying to be a little bit more planned with what I want to talk about. But to be honest, the whole theme of this podcast is about mess and embracing the magic in the mess. So I'm giving myself full permission to not follow the structure that I set. So I hope that's okay with you. But I really appreciate you being here, and just thank you so much for listening in. And I really hope today's episode is helpful and supportive for you. Now, before I forget, I have just recently started up an email newsletter, which I'd love to invite you to jump onto if you're interested. It's going to be notes from my experience this week, similar to the podcast, and just kind of reflecting on some of the messy stuff that's happened in my life recently and how I am, my perspective on things. And hopefully some stuff that you can apply to your own life, as well as links to other things that I've been up to, like my blog, which I'm going to be more planned and more organised around as well, at least in theory, let's be honest. But it's, again, one of those things that will probably evolve over time as I feel into what I want to do with it and what I think will be valuable and supportive for you. So if you're interested in getting on the newsletter list, you can just go to my website, nadeeguy.co, and you'll find the sign up at the bottom of the website in the footer. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention before I dive into today's topic is that since I last caught up with you, I've been officially certified through the School of Embodied Arts as a feminine embodiment coach. And as you may know, if you've been listening for a while, I have been coaching for almost a year, coming up to a year. But to be officially certified is just a huge celebration for me and a big milestone. So I'm very proud of that. I'm just really happy to let you know about that. And I'm also getting ready to launch my signature program that I've been working on for a few months as well. And I don't want to say too much about that right now, but basically it's going to be a 3-month experience, and it's going to support you to get back in touch with your true nature. It's about uncovering the deeper layers of yourself that are waiting to be remembered, and to connect with nature in general. So if you're curious about that, you can jump on the waitlist that's on my website as well. It's just nadeeguy.co/nature. And of course, I'll be talking more about that in the days and weeks to come. So I think that's the admin stuff I wanted to cover off. Now, today's topic is all about how to support yourself through life challenges. And when I was thinking about what topic I felt like recording today, this one came to mind because it just feels really relevant at the moment. I feel like I've had quite a few conversations and people around me lately who have had things going on in their life that is, unusual, or like bigger challenges than what they would normally be facing, whether it be transitions, transformations, challenges, difficult feelings, difficult circumstances. It just feels like, at least in my world, there's a lot of people going through stuff at the moment. And that includes me. I've had some challenging stuff that I've been going through lately as well. And the thing is, like, I have found there's been some things that I've been able to lean on through this time, which have felt really good to me, and I feel like have really sustained me. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it today, because I feel like I've learned some things, during life, but also during my studies that have really helped. And so I wanted to pass those on. I think it's, it's important to know that challenging things happen to all of us at some stage in life. Some of us get hit harder than others, unfortunately, but we all face challenges in life. And I think that we need to know how to look after ourselves, and we need to have just some tools and resources to help us get through and to help us ultimately to thrive, because we all want to live a beautiful life, right? So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. There are 5 kind of main areas that I wanted to chat about. And so the first tip that I have is all around tapping into what feels good for you. So when you're going through a challenging time, whether it's emotionally, physically, with work, in relationships, in self, like your own sort of self-transformation that you might be going through, whatever it is, it might be a health challenge that you're experiencing. I think it's really important to really try to tap into what feels good for you, because when you know what feels good, then you know how to help yourself feel better. Now, this isn't about denying difficult feelings or pretending that things aren't hard, but it is about knowing how to help yourself feel better. And I've got a whole list of things that, when I was reflecting on what's helped me lately, I've just got this whole list of things that I tapped into. So I'm going to share that list with you, and just encourage you to think about each one and whether you might add them to your tool belt. And then also be thinking about the kinds of things that feel supportive to you and what you might be able to add to your list in your own experience. So one of the things that helped me was exercise. I find moving my body and getting out there, whether it be in the fresh air or even at home, doing some kind of exercise and moving my body feels really good. And it gets the endorphins going, and it just helps to pump the blood around our body, get the oxygen going. And I really think that a lot of times exercise helps with, it kind of promotes a sense of optimism, I think. So that's like one thing on my list. Another thing is eating food that feels nourishing and that's really enjoyable. And this is something I haven't really played with a whole lot before, but it just kind of happened, and I found myself craving things like blueberries and raspberries and dark chocolate. And I made a really beautiful dinner one night, which was like salmon and I think like mashed potato and I don't know, veggies or something. I can't remember now, but it was just like, I don't know, it just felt like nourishing food to me. So I was kind of listening to my body. What am I craving? What do I feel like eating? And provided it was relatively healthy, or if it was unhealthy, then it was like the not too much of it. And giving myself permission to eat that. And then also using my senses to enjoy that food. So instead of, eating standing up while doing something else at the same time or whatever, this trap that a lot of us fall into, I was making sure that I was enjoying the flavors and the smells and the sensations of eating. Anyway, that was just one thing that really worked for me. Listening to and reading high vibe content has been something that I really enjoy as well, which just basically means consuming content, whether it be music, podcasts, courses, books, online blogs, social media with a grain of salt, but just the content that makes you feel good and stuff that's not going to drag you into, a black hole of negativity, which I think a lot of content can, but just making sure that you're being really selective about the kinds of things that you read or watch or listen to. Getting obsessed with a project that lights you up is another one. Thinking about something that you really love to do or that you're really passionate about, and then giving yourself permission to spend time doing that is a really good one as well, because it gives you something to get really excited about, gives your brain something to obsess about other than this other stuff that's going on in your life at the moment. And it gives you something to look forward to. Going outside and spending time in nature is another one that has really helped me, and this is something I try to do as often as possible, spending time in nature. And I know not everyone has access to nature depending on where you live, but I do believe that we all have some kind of access to some kind of nature. So have a think about where you could go or how you could access the natural world, even if it's just spending some time in the sunshine, and using your senses to absorb what's going on around you, feeling the sun on your skin, listening to the birds in the trees or the wind through the window or whatever it might be. I think just getting into your body, using your senses is really beautiful. Gratitude is a really big one for me as well. And this again is something that I try and bring into my life regularly. But I think it's really useful when things are challenging, and finding things about life to be grateful for, because I really believe that there's always something to be grateful for, even if it's just this breath, this breath that I'm taking right now. Thank you, breath, for sustaining me, for keeping me alive, for being with me every day of my life, even when I don't pay attention. That there's always something to be grateful for. And in my experiences, like once you start thinking about what to be grateful for, it's just like this, it can become an avalanche. Thank you for my warm bed, for the view out my window, for the food that I ate today, the roof over my head, the water I get to drink, the friends I have, the family I have. There's always something to be grateful for, and the more you think about it, the more there is. Meditation is another one that I have really leaned on. And I am a big fan of Insight Timer, which is an app that you can get for free, and there is like thousands of meditations on there for free, and you can also upgrade. There is a paid version as well, which gets you access to additional things. But if you're not someone who can meditate on your own, or you don't want to, or you want guided meditations, they also have sleep stories and courses and all kinds of things. But yeah, meditation has been a really good one as well, because I think meditation is something that helps us to become an observer of our life. It kind of helps you to like remove yourself from the experience that you're having in whatever moment you're having it, and become the observer and just watch, the feelings, watch your behavior or reaction. And by becoming the observer, it gives you that extra power to either change something or to notice something that you haven't otherwise noticed, and just to have a different experience. I think it can be really powerful. Talking to a friend or a loved one can be super, super nourishing as well, especially someone who will really listen, really care, and really support you. And this is something that's taken me a really long time to learn. For the longest time, I don't know, I think I kept stuff to myself. I tried to get through things on my own. I have always considered myself a pretty strong person. But, just because you need support or you need to talk to somebody doesn't mean you're not strong. And in fact, I would argue that it makes you stronger. It means that you've got courage to reach out to someone and say, hey, I'm going through something and I'd really appreciate some support, or I'd love your thoughts, or I just need you to listen to me, or I need you to give me a hug while I cry, or whatever it is. Like talking to a friend or a family member or a loved one can be so deeply soul nourishing. So if that's not something that you've embraced before, I highly recommend. And I know it can be difficult when it's not something that you're used to doing. And believe me, I can relate to that. So maybe start small, and maybe just don't expect to go in with a full-blown like D&M conversation. But you could start small and just kind of have dip your toe into vulnerability and talking with someone about something that's going on for you. I bought myself flowers as well. And this was actually amazing. I saw these flowers on special at the supermarket, and I stopped to buy them, and then when I got to the checkout they were even cheaper than I thought they were going to be, and I ended up getting this beautiful bunch of flowers for $1, which was so serendipitous, and I loved it. So I was very, very lucky. I don't normally splash out on flowers for myself, but I do recommend doing it. It can just lift your day immediately, and it can also brighten your home for days to come. I also found a really beautiful herbal tea, and that's not something that I normally really kind of get into or appreciate, but I found one that looks really beautiful, smells gorgeous, and just makes me happy. So that was something else I did. Cuddling your pet, dog, cat, rabbit, whatever you have. Spending some time with a pet can be really nourishing. And then the last thing on my list, was making my body feel good. So like shaving my legs, just tending, like moisturizing, looking after my skin, all those things that, we should do anyway, but doing those things for yourself can just make a difference, can help you feel better. So that's section 1. I know that was a bit long-winded, but that was my list of things that might help you feel good. And that's all about tapping into what feels good for you. So I really encourage you to take what resonates with you, but also add the ones that you'd like to add to the list. My second tip is to really feel your feelings. Now, this part is all about deep self-love, and feeling your feelings, again, it's something that some people are used to doing and some people not so much. And it's something that I've become more and more accustomed to over the past couple of years, particularly over the past 12 to 18 months. And it is such a powerful thing, because I think so many of us, well, we don't really get taught, most of us, I think, to embrace our feelings. If anything, we're taught to either hide them or to get over them or to be strong or to move through. You know what I mean? But when you actually take time to turn inward and just become aware of what you're feeling, to allow your feelings to be there and to start to welcome them and embrace them, it changes your life. It can be so, so powerful, because you get to know yourself better for a start. And then the more you can embrace these feelings, especially the ones that are difficult, the sadness, the anger, the frustration, the shame, the discomfort, all those feelings that we tend to shy away from, the more you can feel them and embrace them, the less power they have over you. Because what happens is you feel them, you allow them, and they begin to transform and change and become energy that it's really hard to describe. But they transform into something that is more positive and it feels better, and you begin to trust yourself more. And I mean, this could be a whole episode on its own. This is very much what I do in my feminine embodiment coaching, is help my clients to be with these feelings and to kind of figure out what it is they're trying to show you. But I think feeling our feelings is so important. And I'm also reading a book at the moment, Waking the Tiger, which I don't have it in front of me and I cannot remember the author, but I will put it in the show notes. And it's basically about healing trauma. And he talks about how when we don't fully process trauma or difficult feelings, it gets stored in the body and then it surfaces in other ways. And so when we actually allow feelings to move through us and we face them and we work with them, they don't have that power over us anymore. So feeling your feelings is something that I really think can be a really strong, powerful thing to do. It's not always easy, and sometimes you may need support, maybe professional support, to get through that. But I do also, as part of this section under self-love, believe it's really important to have patience and compassion for yourself and what you're going through. Because if you're going through something challenging in life, as I said, we all do, it's so important to be kind to yourself and to have patience and compassion for this period of life that you're in. And the last thing I wanted to mention here was journaling. And I've done journaling on and off over the years. It's not something that I've ever really been massively into, but I have been finding that it's really helpful to write things down and to help process thoughts I'm having, and I find that when you get things on paper, they feel less heavy. in your mind. So that's number 2. So number 1 was tapping into what feels good. Number 2 was self-love. And number 3 is just knowing that things will change. If you're going through a challenge at the moment, or you're facing something that's really uncomfortable, it can feel like things are never going to get better. And my heart goes out to you, because I know it's not a fun place to be. But it can help to remember that life continues to move. You know, the seasons change. We all continue to get older, and it might not feel like it in the moment, but things do change. And I love to look to nature again for inspiration here. You know, we can see in nature that things are continuing to change, are always moving forward. And one thing I've been really tapping into lately is the phases of the moon, and taking note of what the moon is doing, what phase she's in right now, because I'm noticing that as I notice the moon, it's reminding me that time is moving forward and that things are changing, because I might look at the moon one day and it's close to full, and then I look at the moon on another day and it's almost back to new moon. And that just reminds me that, oh my gosh, like 2 weeks have passed, kind of thing. Like, and even like day by day, you can notice small changes. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But basically, just to remember that things will change, and they always do. I think it's really useful to plan something to look forward to if you can. I know that when you're in, say, you're in anxiety or depression, or something hard, it can be difficult to make plans. But if you're in a space where you're able to plan something in the future that you've got to look forward to, I think that's always a really beautiful thing to do for yourself. And the other thing is to just take one day at a time. Sometimes it's 1 hour at a time, and just really giving yourself that space. And again, patience. And the final thing I wanted to mention here, the last section, is about getting professional support if you need it. This is something, again, that I think not everyone is willing to do, and it is a really hard step to take, to reach out to a GP or a professional for mental health support or for physical support, whatever it is that you need to get you through what you're going through right now. But it can be so, so beneficial. And I wanted to mention a couple of things in Australia, resources that I'm aware of, in case it's of use. Now, in Australia, there's the mental health care plan, and I've used this over the past couple of years. Basically, you go to your GP and they do a mental health assessment, and then they give you a mental health care plan, which gives you access to rebates on psychologists and mental health professionals. And so, because going to see a psychologist can be really expensive, and not everyone has access to that. So having Medicare rebates through the mental health care plan can be really, really helpful. There's also a program that I recently became aware of. It's called Head to Health. I'll put all the links to these in the show notes. And this is a program that's coordinated by the government, and it gives you can do an assessment, and it gives you tips on what kind of support you might need and how to find it. There's also Beyond Blue in Australia if you really need some mental health support. And I saw recently that they are doing a program for, I think it was for small business owners who are experiencing stress at the moment. And, at the time of recording this in August 2023, the economy is having some stress at the moment, which is stressing lots of people who own businesses. And so Beyond Blue are running a program around supporting business owners. So I'll put a link to that. Hopefully I can find the link again in the show notes to that too. But I also wanted to mention here that it can be really difficult to get in to see a psychologist or a counsellor. There are lots of, I don't know if there's lots of, but I know that there are options online where you can do sessions via Zoom or online sessions, which might make it easier, because then obviously you're not tied to someone who's local to your area, which can be really hard to get in to see them. And then I also wanted to mention, of course, that coaching is an option in terms of support. So coaching is very different to seeing a psychologist or a counsellor, but it can give you that professional level of support or reinforcement, or even just someone who'll listen to what you're going through and to provide an extra shoulder, an extra layer of support based on their experience. And yeah, so I think, anyway, these are all the options that I thought was worth mentioning under professional support. And I will say again that I do believe it takes courage to reach out for professional support, but it is so worthwhile doing, and you won't regret it. So just in summary one more time, those 5 areas for ways to support yourself through challenging times in life were to tap into what feels good, either using some of those things on the list that I mentioned or your own, really having a deep sense of self-love, knowing that things will change, and also considering professional support if that's something that you think would be beneficial. So thank you so much once again for listening in today. I know it was a bit of a heavier topic than what I've covered in the past, but I hope that it was helpful, and I felt like it was something that there's probably some people out there who could benefit from this topic at the moment, even if it's just to know that you're not alone. There's other people going through stuff right now too, so you are not alone. And it could even be an episode to bookmark for future reference, in case you need a quick list of resources in the future. And before I go, I just wanted to add a reminder that if you feel like you could do with some extra support, coaching can be a really solid option. So you're welcome to reach out to me with any questions you've got about my coaching. And if you'd like to see if it's a fit for you. My approach and my belief is that by offering a safe space to explore their beautiful and sometimes dark inner world, I can empower women to understand their unique gifts, to trust themselves, and to make the beautiful difference in the world that they desire to make. So you can find out more on my website, nadineguy.co. Thank you once again for joining me. I'll be back in your podcast queue again really soon. And in the meantime, have a magical day.